It's my first time live streaming, so
Almost time for my old man nap. Come on.
we see. Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, I better hurry up before we all get old, like Ross. Anyway,
I'm done.
welcome to what is going to be. Welcome to what is going to be the greatest debate of all time in the niche of seduction. Something like this has never been seen before and may never happen again, as we have the two biggest OGs of game, the two men who paved their own way against all odds to learn game for themselves and to guide others along the way. We have Ross Jeffries, godfather of the pickup artist community, began studying in seduction in 1988 through NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, released the book How to Get the Woman You Desire into Bed in 1989, before some of you were even born. Notoriously took on a room full of feminists on an NBC talk show in 1992, was the inspiration behind Tom Cruise's character in the 1999 movie Magnolia. One of the main characters in 2005 book, The Game by Neil Strauss. And we have Erik Von Markovik, Mystery, greatest pickup artist of all time, began learning game on his own in the early 2000s. The man behind Project Hollywood, also one of the main characters in 2005 book, The Game by Neil Strauss, released the book, The Mystery Method in 2006, had his own TV show on VH1 called The Pickup Artist from 2007 to 2008. God, this is getting long, but I'm going to keep going. I'm Ice White. I'll be acting as moderator and hosting this debate. This is the fourth debate I have hosted. The first was a chaotic social circle game and cold approach debate between Michael Sartain and Marcus Wolf, and even Dan Bilzerian joined in. The second debate was between Michael Sartain and Hamza Hitch, and the third debate was between Ross Jeffries, who's here, and Paul Davis, just per things. So that escalated quickly. I might interject from time to time just to seek clarification for the audience or to throw in some interesting topics during our window of opportunity here. But aside from that, we all know this conversation will pretty much handle itself. So I don't expect to be jumping in very much. I will be reading out super chats, $10 or more, as potentially increasing according to demand. There are a lot of people watching. You want to know something crazy? The three of us were all born in September, and our birthdays are all within days of each other. Now, that's just something strange I realized today. But anyway, let's fucking go. Who would like to start us off?
Well, if you'd like, go ahead.
Yeah, I just before we go anywhere, acknowledge you, Eric, and I mean it from the heart, as an absolute genius and an original. I may not agree with all of what you teach or any of that, but one of the things I think is super admirable about you, and I don't know if we'll have time in this discussion to find out how you did it. I had some assistants. I modeled Richard Bandler. Richard Bandler took me under his wing and taught me personally. But you had no one to model. You did this all on your own. So in addition to being an original and a genius, your tenacity and resilience is remarkable. So at some point, Ice, if it's okay, I'd like to find out how, if Eric can spend like 3 minutes and tell us his process, how you figured this the fuck out, because you must have gone through some serious shit to get this all figured out.
Yeah, it was a long haul of a good 10 years to get to the M3 model, which is a diagram that what it does is it takes the timeline of the pickup from meeting her to beginning a sexual relationship, and it divides it into phases. When I had begun the understanding that this has to happen in phases, I went by a very simple procedural structure known as FMAC. That's how I began. FMAC, it stands for find, meet, attract, close. Now that's only pickup. That did not define anything in mid-game. It did not define anything in seduction. It was just from meeting her to getting her phone number. That was it. That's FMAC. Finding her really isn't a part of the timeline. It's pre-timeline, getting out to the venue to literally be in the presence of a woman or more. Then you have to meet her, which we now call opening, but you have to meet her. Then you have to somehow demonstrate that you have a personality, right? Demonstrate that and attract her and trigger attraction. As David D'Angelo says, attraction is not a choice. And following that, we then, FMAC, find, meet, attract, close. And the close was just a phone number close back in the day. But that wasn't enough. That didn't define my success stories fully. It only defined the pickup, right? From meet to phone number. There's still all the stuff you do on day 2, the shared activities that you do on day 2, filling the timeline. It takes many hours for her to be comfortable enough to want to seduce you.
Okay,
Women.
well, at some point, I don't want to, I want to address that, but please finish.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure we have lots of ideas to address and to talk about. But that's where it came from. I started with FMAC, and it turned into something really long at one point. Forsk, close to foreskin. Find, open, rapport. There were basically a bunch of things I wanted to put into the timeline of my typical pickup, right? Ross, where did qualification come from? To me, qualification was talked about in the community, but it was just a gambit. It wasn't a phase. And so I had placed qualification as a phase into the ideal pickup, a situation where if I'm going to turn this girl that I've just met into my girlfriend, what would I want her to know about me? So everything I would want her to know about me before we do the deed, that is kind of what I had put into my structure so that I could hit the waypoints. Like one of the waypoints you'll get in every pickup is the question, so how do you all know each other? There's that waypoint. Well, there are other waypoints as well, and there's waypoints in each phase. So I just backwards engineered my successes and discovered the M3 model. That's
Right.
what took place. I remember doing it with my buddy Neil Strauss at the time, and he was saying, why are you doing this, man? Just go pick up the girl. And I'm like, no, there's a pattern here, and I don't understand it. And the pattern was ultimately that pickups go generally through 3 physical locations. The attraction location is where you meet them. Then you have to build comfort, so you got to do it somewhere at the comfort location. And then finally, you need some privacy for seduction. And you go to your living room, which is the seduction location. That was mid-game to me. A little bit of comfort is established in attraction. C1 is what I called it. And the objective of C1 was just trust, to build enough trust that you could bounce her from one venue to the next. So she comes and joins you to what is now a C2 location, a comfort building location like Mel's Diner for a bite to eat. And then finally bouncing to your living room, bouncing to the seduction location and escalating from there. So that was mid-game, right? And then end game. And the truth is, I really don't teach a lot of end game because I have to teach practical application in field over 3 days, 3 nights. We go in the clubs. And I believe, this is just my belief, women are better at seduction than men are. At least better than me. Maybe they're not, maybe there are some really good seducers out there. Ross, you're one of them. Being able to, being able to, I've seen you perform, whisper sweet nothings in a woman's ear and her pupils dilate. Right? I've seen that. I've witnessed that personally. But if you have attraction and comfort, she'll likely seduce you.
Let me speak into all
Those are my
this.
thoughts.
Yeah,
Please.
thank you for sharing that. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's curious about your process. Thank you for sharing. A couple of things. From my experience and the experience of countless students, tens of thousands over a 33-year career, it's not my observation or belief that women have their emotions in sequence or that a seduction takes place in a sequence. I think women can have their emotions simultaneously. If you know how to do it, if you know how to communicate straight with the unconscious mind, you can create, well, first of all, we need to define what we mean by attraction, because it's an ill-defined term. When you say attraction, does it mean her vagina is wet, she's having sexual thoughts, or does it mean she's focused on you and she wants more of the interaction? To me, I more think about in terms of focus. My first aim is drawing focus, because focus is the currency of any kind of influence, persuasion, sales, seduction. If you can't get that focus, you're not getting anywhere, or you're going to lose the attention of that person. So my teaching to my students is you can get that focus, you can get what you would call comfort, you can even get deep connection very quickly. You can do it in a matter of minutes. I don't believe that women have their emotions in a linear fashion. I think it's relatively certain and provable that women have emotions about their emotions. So let's say a woman is feeling what you would call comfort. She could feel excited about her comfort. She could feel curious about her excitement, about her comfort. So I don't necessarily believe that women, or humans for that matter, experience their emotions in a linear fashion. That's the first point I'd make. The second point I'd make is, if you know how to do something, if you have a technology for doing something, it's going to seem impossible for the outside. But in my experience and the experience of my students, you don't need 7 hours. That's a model. And inside of that model, given what your technology is, you might need 7 hours, but I've done it in a matter of hours. Some of my students have done it in less. If you know how to do these things, you can create them simultaneously as well as sequentially, and you can do it relatively quickly. That's why we call it speed seduction. It's done quickly. Now, you can also do it in a way where there's not buyer's remorse. You can do it in a way where it feels, how can I put this, where it feels organic. Is it a little manipulative? Well, it's certainly structured in a way to get a response, but there's nothing dishonest about it. There's no, for example, and this is something I would like to ask you about, demonstrating higher value, telling these stories. Is it really demonstrating higher value, or is it just being really good as a storyteller, which is fine? Learning to tell stories is something that I teach, but I think there's a distinction between telling a story about how you are of higher value and actually showing it.
Yeah.
And so I think what you're really doing there is getting focus, which is something you can do with speed seduction. And my claim is you can do it a lot quicker. So you're the one who created it. I don't want to put words in your mouth. When you're doing a DHV, are you really demonstrating a higher value, whatever value means?
Well, I'd love to get to defining it, if I may.
Yeah, please.
This is something very important, is to understand what attraction is. So what is the purpose of life? We know the meaning, or rather, I cannot tell you the meaning of life, but we know the purpose of life, which is to survive and replicate. We've got roughly 28,000 days to make that happen, to survive and replicate. Replication is just a genetic means of continued survival. So you can't separate the two. It's not just survive, or replicate. It's survive and replicate. If I align with someone with value, survival and replication value, if they can demonstrate survival and replication value for me, I will wish to align with them to improve my chances as well. When I look to a woman, I look more for replication value than survival value. And generally, women look towards men more for survival value than replication value. But again, you cannot separate the two. That is the purpose of life, not the meaning. I don't know the meaning of life, but the purpose of life is to survive and replicate. That's what value is. It's survival and replication value. And the neat thing is, if you can demonstrate some key DHVs, demonstrations of higher value, pings within a story, That's what makes a DHV story. It's just a story of your choice with a couple bragging spikes built in. No one else is going to brag for you. And the
What spikes?
wingman. Yeah, a couple spikes. And you don't want the DLVs, demonstrations of lower value. But that makes up, those key moments where, if, for instance, I were to say, I went to the Hollywood sign, and if you go there, I went there with a girlfriend who, if you're so inclined to rating women from 1 to 10, which I'd never do, she was off the charts, a very beautiful, beautiful actress. And we jumped the fence, went up to the Hollywood sign, touched it for good luck. Trust me, it works. I'll pause here. The fact that I'm talking about a beautiful girl is the DHV. I would rather have girls with me, of course, like we did yesterday. We had girls with us, and then you can open up adjacent groups very proficiently because you have girls with you. But what if you don't have women with you? You have to start from scratch. You've got to put your best foot forward. So you can trigger attraction by triggering the 5 key DHVs that make a woman, or not make her, that allow her to feel that you have value for her. And I have defined the 5 DHVs thusly. First is pre-selection. 80% of all attraction is a woman knowing that you're pre-selected by other women. That presumes you have all the other characteristics. Pre-selection is number 1. Leader of men, protector of loved ones, a willingness to emote, to show a rich range of emotion, not hide behind a smile, the American smile, and successful risk taker. If you can convey
Here's my point, Aaron. Here's my point.
It triggers attraction. Go ahead.
Here's my point. Is telling a story that you did that actually demonstrating it, or is it just telling a good story? Someone may not believe your story. Look, I understand if you're in a society and you're someone who's got the highest status and you actually are protecting your loved ones and you're showing it, are you actually really demonstrating it? Or are you telling a story about where you demonstrated it? And I think it's a really important distinction. In speed seduction, I'm not interested in talking about myself. That's not what I believe we should be doing. We ought to be capturing and leading the imagination and the emotions and the focus of a woman by using certain techniques and speaking in a certain way, and by the energy we bring to the approach. How do we prepare before we go out? What are the rituals? What are the things we do to prepare our state? So I am not interested in starting the conversation by talking about myself, or even talking about myself very much at all. I think it could, in certain situations, come off as bragging, if it's done right. Yeah. And
art form.
I've talked to so many women who've said the number one mistake, the number one thing we can't stand about guys is they talk about themselves. So what I would like to introduce is some of the things that I'm teaching. I've heard you and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
First and foremost, capture and lead the imagination and the emotions of that woman. Speak in a way that evokes emotional states. Now, I don't believe you have to get comfort first. I don't believe you have to get attraction first or seduction first. You can do them simultaneously, and you can do it by being very direct. Let me tell a story, the true story. All my stories are true, but I swear on my star, it's true. So once upon a time, I was going to get my nails done at a salon in Marina del Rey. I opened the door, and it's obviously very crowded. I said to the woman, "How long is the wait?" She said, 30 minutes. I said, "Way too long." As I was leaving, I turned and looked over my shoulder and saw a very, very attractive blonde woman drying her nails.
That's rare.
Well, hold on. In a club or a bar, it's rare. Hold on. Out in the real world, it's not so rare. So, well, hold on. And I'll give you some counterexamples in a minute. So she's drying her nails. And as I'm leaving, I turn and look back. And I let the door close. And I thought, no, go back in there. So I went back and I said to her, "Excuse me, I was leaving. But as soon as I saw you, you stopped me dead in my tracks. And I had to come talk to you." Boom. Now, I forget what patterns I ran on her, but afterwards, when I was debriefing her, after I debriefed her, She said, you know, you were so bold, you were so confident, you didn't give a fuck about what other people in the salon thought. Everyone was watching. You didn't care. That made my pussy wet almost instantly. So that's an example of actually showing confidence. That's an example of not me talking about times when I was confident. It was an example of being direct. And it was that directness, along with some of the language patterns that she didn't pick up, that actually worked. Now, given the context of a club, I can see how that would not work. But a lot of women don't spend their times in bars and clubs and parties. And further, my audience, guys in their 40s and 50s, and some younger guys.
My students were in their 40s and 50s, and we went to the after parties, we went to the parties, we went to the bottle service nights. We did it all. We did bars. We demonstrated a diverse range of events over 3 days and 3 nights. We did 3 venues per night, 9 venues this weekend. It was a joy, surrounded by love at every venue.
Okay, what I'm saying is that many guys are just not going to go to bars. They're not going to have access to those venues. You mentioned the word bottle service. How many guys can get access to bottle service?
Oh, I
I
didn't
would
pay for
rather
it.
show up in a way if I
got
could.
invited.
If I could, well, you got invited because your status and your mystery, of course. The guy who's in Podunk, Idaho, who's living, who's working 12 hours a day because he's got his own career. He's a successful career person, or he's running his own business. He doesn't have time to go to bars and clubs. I personally, even with you by my side, whispering in my ear would not go because I can't stand noise. I can't stand crowds. I can't stand drunk people. I just would not go. But there's a larger
that does add up to you coming up with enough excuses not to go to the party, and
I would not go. It's not an excuse. I just would not.
You're missing out, my friend. The
I
parties
just
in Hollywood
go.
Hills.
There's a larger
extraordinary.
there's a larger point here. How many guys, if they don't know you or someone in that scene, can get those invitations? But more importantly, that was an example of what you said can't work, which is direct approach. I showed my interest. You say don't show.
No, on a single set.
I showed my interest directly. I did it in a way where there's no shame. And I think when a guy can show that kind of balls, combine it with a unique thing. I didn't go up to her and say, hey, I think you're so beautiful. I had to come back in. Didn't work. I said, when I saw you, you stopped me dead in my tracks, which is something that's very unique, something she wouldn't be used to hearing. And boom. So it is possible to be direct. I think the distinction between direct and indirect maybe is not so important one. You can, with speed seduction, you can do both, and they're equally effective. So what would you say to that? That I was direct, I didn't show an indicator of disinterest, and that the real demonstration of higher value was not me telling a story about how I was boldly approaching someone, but the fact that I actually did it.
Well, I've discovered in my experience that women of particular quality of beauty are rarely alone. They're usually in groups. So you're going to have to work the group. You know, single sets are very rare. Women walk fast. They're on their phone. They're trying not to let anyone talk to them. I've had beautiful women in my life and, you know, bartenders and such. And when they're walking to work, they just walk fast and they don't want to talk to anyone and they pay attention to no one, right? Beautiful women are usually in groups of people when you meet them. And you cannot hit on her on the open because you don't know which is the boyfriend, which is the brother, and they're in the group. Remember,
I don't hit on anyone. I don't hit on anyone. And all those beautiful women that you see, they have to go grocery shopping. Here in Southern California, they're everywhere in yoga events, not yoga classes, because they leave the class right away. But I have done very well at yoga events. For example, this is chick crack. I don't believe any of it, but I'll go. They do yoga sound baths and chakra healing, and they're all over the place. There are plenty of women who are by themselves. Ice is laughing, but there's plenty of women who are available who are by themselves and Furthermore, if you can talk in their language, they love that stuff. So
Hmm.
I don't agree that women of great beauty or even quality are alone. Now, I'll agree with you this in the context of what you're speaking about in bars and clubs, they're not alone. I would say they're never alone. But again, I just don't go into bars
Well,
and
just
clubs.
I'm telling you, I've been out yesterday and the night before on the streets. People are in two sets. That's two people, three sets, mixed sets have guys in them. Very lucrative. You can actually approach a couple and be surprised that they're not together, that the man is just an orbiter. So you can get some interesting results from unexpected types of sets. A lot of people don't open mixed sets. That's with a group with guys in them because they're afraid that the guys are going to get angry that you're making moves on the girl. But if you open in an indirect manner and you befriend, her friends, then you have a chance with her. Usually with peer approval by saying, your friend and I like each other. You cool with that? And a nice little soundbite for them to say, sure. And then you can go sit with your selected interest. That
Again,
is the pattern that happens over and over and over again in pickup for me is that I see a group of people, I engage in them, we chat for 10, 15 minutes. In that time, I get permission to isolate my woman of interest and escalate from there.
let's talk about that.
Please.
When you got them in isolation, aren't you really doing some form of NLP, some form of hypnotic stuff? I've seen,
Yeah,
I swear on my parents' memory,
Mhm.
and I would not do that. So I'm being serious.
Mhm.
I attended one of your seminars. It was a long time ago. It was in the
Yeah,
location
20 years ago, 15 years ago.
22. And I distinctly recall you looking at me and saying, and when I get them isolated, I basically use speed seduction.
No,
That's
sir. No, sir. That's an interesting recollection you have, but no.
okay.
It's a
So tell
different
me, what
model.
are you doing?
It's like the Mac versus the PC to me.
What are you doing in isolation then? Aren't you fundamentally using what I teach throughout the
To
process?
be honest, isolation happens only if you're in a 3-set or more. If it's a 2-set, you cannot isolate because it alienates the obstacle or the friend. So, isolation may be 2 people. It's a mini isolation. All you're doing is getting a chance to speak with one person from a group without everyone else hearing it, without holding court and running the group. Because it's group theory. We
I
run
get
the
it.
group, but you
I get
get permission from the peer group. Is it all right if I talk to her for a moment? And then you can move to a sit down. And the dream is the sit down,
Okay. So
talking one
what are you
girl
doing?
attracted to,
What
arm in arm.
specific, what
That's what we want to
specific
get to.
techniques are you giving someone when they're in isolation and you've got that one-on-one to capture the imagination, arouse the person, and implant the suggestions that it's on?
Well, by the time I'm moving the set, I'm in the 3rd phase, which is known as qualification. She's qualified enough so that I can show enough interest to say, I'm curious about you. Is there more to you than meets the eye? Here, come join me. And you can grab a seat and get to know each other, which is the fantasy. The dream is being one-on-one with the girl. But because she's not alone, because she's in a group, because that group has friends, other groups, you have to handle all the logistics that are necessary to finally get a chance to, sit one-on-one with the girl and get to know her. So by the time I get down to lock-in, we call it lock-in, 3 to 5 minutes into set, you'll lean up against the bar, for instance, and the girls will join you. So it looks like they're with you as opposed to you gaming them. That's known as lock-in. It'll happen about 3 to 5 minutes in. I know that's a little early, maybe 7 minutes in, if you're taking time with the stand-up group. And then you go grab a seat and you start comfort building. And comfort to me is really about time, getting her, like spending the time with her so that she can feel as comfortable as she needs to
Okay.
bounce.
If I could, my claim and something that my students would tell you is comfort can be on the unconscious level installed when you know how to address it. I have a language pattern I call hard on sleeve. Now, as difficult as it may be for you guys out there to believe it, you can check it out for free. Just run it based on what the AI tells you. basically Heart on Sleeve talks about the theme of connection and comfort and what it's like when you feel it. And so what I'm saying is you don't need to take all this time with all these steps. If you know how to use your language to evoke these emotional responses bubbling up from the unconscious mind, you can do it very, very, very quickly. Can you do it in a club or bar scene? I don't know. But I think this whole idea that happens A1, A2, A3, C1, whatever, is based on your model, and your model is not taking into account the power of suggestion and the ability to talk to the subconscious mind and evoke responses very, very quickly. If you are leaving the power of language and suggestion to generate very quickly responses, states of mind, flows of feeling in the body, mental imagery, if you're leaving that out, you're leaving a vast array of weapons out of your arsenal.
Well, let's
If
not use weapons. Let's not
Okay.
use arsenal.
Tools, tools,
Tools for an
tools,
artist.
tools out of your toolkit. I'll accept the redefinition, if you will. Either way you look at it, either term you want to use, any terms you want to use, you're leaving that out. And I can tell you from my own experience, and look, I'm not doing it on my looks. Okay. I'm just not. I never have. Well,
It's
hey,
coming in, coming in, Ross.
I remember you when you were a Johnny Depp lookalike. You were. I don't know how much of this was you getting away with your looks. But in any case, my claim is that you can generate all these things, and they don't necessarily have to be in sequence, if you know how to speak about some of the themes that excite women. What are those themes that women like to think about? Connection, being swept off their feet, meeting someone who they feel like they've known their whole life,
All this
doing something that's just for them, that even their best friends, they wouldn't want to tell them. All of that can be installed and suggested in a matter of 45 minutes if you're a newbie, and 20 minutes if you're good at what I do. You don't have to do all this stuff. And again, I will challenge you on this idea that women have their emotions in sequence. They don't.
I don't know what that means. The structure is not giving her emotions in sequence. It's opening the set. It's then demonstrating value. It's then qualifying her, giving her a chance to invest in you, and then moving the set, the whole group, into a sit down so you can build comfort with them. That's a typical fun night out. Hanging with
but I'm saying building comfort can take place in 3 minutes. You don't need to take hours to do it. Now, again, I'm going to acknowledge something.
It doesn't make you a master if you get the girl in 3 minutes. It doesn't make you a master. It just makes the opponent naive.
No. If you can do it with the right skill set, it becomes predictable. And if you don't know how to do it, I could understand how you would.
Efficiency is what I'm after.
Okay. So if you can do it in 30 minutes, instead of then
30 to 40 minutes is a good pickup. If not 2 hours, by having an instant date, right? By hanging with her that whole night because you want to, you like each other.
Right. So what I'm saying, that using some of these language patterns in speed seduction, you can do all of that. I'll give you an example because I'm just moving my lips and it's too generalized. So I have a language pattern called Heart on Sleeve. And basically, so the sequence is, first and foremost, you have to do a pattern interrupt. I think based on your work that you do a lot of pattern interrupts. Maybe you don't.
Baxter and I were talking about that. He had suggested, my wingman Baxter, by the way, of 15 years. Love the guy. He's a good man. Ladies love him. Yeah, he did really good this weekend. He was suggesting that very thing that you said that. Also the word manipulation. You know, I do magic. I perform. What I do is I put my best foot forward and I allow the woman to choose me based on my performance. To me, pickup is a performing arts. It's the pickup.
I don't agree. No,
it's an art form.
Performing. It's an art form, but there's
a performance art.
between an art form and a performance.
Mhm.
Okay. It's an art in the sense that you have to practice it, but we're not performing in speed seduction. We're creating connections with the deeper part of the woman's mind. But let me continue because
Okay.
I got sort of stared away.
Here.
So what we're doing is doing a basic pat interrupt just to get her attention. Then I'm going to get her laughing because laughter is a way to get attention, and it's also
We both agree on that.
okay. It's a
Laughter
bonding
is
tool.
the secret to success.
Really, it's not being a clown, but laughter. We'll agree on that.
That's
All right. And then I'm going to ask her a simple question, which is, and this is designed to bring up an emotional state in her, which is, do you wear your heart on your sleeve or can you hide your feelings? For example, let's say you meet a guy and you feel this amazing connection, you know, those butterflies right there to let you recognize something big is taking place. Can you hide that that's what's happening? Or would your friends be able to see, yes, that's what's occurring? I listen to her answer, whatever her answer is, then I feed it back to her. And then I say, for me, when I feel that amazing connection, maybe even that special growing tension
Mhm.
that you recognize it's time to act on this. I can't hide it. It's an open book. Now that sounds like
No, it's
gobbledygook.
great. I
Sounds
love
nonsense.
it. I love it. I can see that working in field. You're captivating her attention. Like you said, focus, but I call it captivating. You can stimulate the set and then you can captivate the set, draw them in, right?
It's
It's a
more than
distinction. You
captivating.
stimulate first, then captivate.
It's more than captivating.
Mm.
It's not just drawing focus in, it's installing, I'm making suggestions like feel this incredible connection,
Mhm.
feel
Yeah,
those
great.
butterflies. I did this with of all people, I did it with a parking enforcement woman. She said, God, I'm feeling those butterflies with you right now.
Yeah,
It can be created really, really quickly. That's
nice.
just one example of dozens of language patterns.
Yes,
Dozens.
sir.
I've done this. And then you can also seduce using genuine curiosity. I'll tell you another story. And this is what you would call indirect. Sitting on a flight, I'm sitting on this aisle seat, very attractive blonde woman, I would say in her late 20s, wearing a running suit, a track suit.
Okay.
And then coming down the aisle was this couple who were sickeningly in love. They were sucking face and saying, baby, baby, I love you, I love you. One sits down right next to the woman, the sporty woman. One sits down next to me, and they're talking across us. And I couldn't take it. I tap the blonde girl. I reach over. I say, "Hey, sporty, what say we change places so these two lovebirds can be together?" She says, "Fine, but I want your aisle seat." So she sits on the aisle. I sit next to her. And I noticed she's looking through some very complex scientific diagrams. I said, wait a minute, that's a vector, isn't it? She said, yeah, that's right. And I said, that looks like a satellite at apogee, and that looks like a satellite at perigee. She said, yeah, that's absolutely true. I like, wow. I said, let me ask you something. And then I just started to dive into what I was curious about. Like, how is it that you're able to imagine all this stuff? Because when you do what you do, she said she was an aerospace engineer. Half of this is being an artist, you have to visualize it, but half of it is being an engineer. What part of that came easier to you, the engineer part or the artist part? That got her off to the races. I let her talk. I
Yeah,
didn't. I
invest
let
in
her.
you. Yeah, to get her
I'll
to
let her.
invest.
I'll let her talk. And then she said, how do you know this? Are you an aerospace engineer? I said, I'm an aerospace engineer. She said, what
Mm.
is that? I said, EROS. I engineer the space between men and women so they can feel an incredible connection. Then I went on to do some things. And do we have a full-on tongue-on-tongue makeout? No, but we made out a little bit.
Mhm.
I wound up getting her number, did a day 2, and closed her. Now, I didn't talk about myself. I showed genuine curiosity about
As
that.
do I. Qualifying.
And
It's phase.
and I
Yeah,
think
it's an important phase to get them to invest in you. We start simple, questions such as, if you had to sing on X Factor in 2 weeks' time, what would you sing? And that gets them investing in you. And it's an interesting question because some people have thought that through, you know, so you get to learn about a person. You can ask questions such as, what's your superpower? Lighthearted ones. But what I enjoy in A3, in qualifying, is at the beginning, I'm crossing my arms and saying, is there more to you than meets the eye? And at the end, I'm uncrossing my arms and I'm saying, wow, your first impression was neutral. But now that I have gotten to know you, you're absolutely incredible. To me, A3 is the art of the compliment, is the art of hitting on the girl. You're going to show indicators of interest to the girl, but not until she's earned them. And that happens in an entire phase where she gets to invest in you. It
I'm
happens,
not, I-
as Desmond Morris has said, it has to happen in phases. It happens in
okay,
phases.
so now what we're
Build the
doing,
timeline.
what you're doing is something that I think is a little intellectually questionable. I'm just going to say it.
I
You're
got it from you,
extrapolating.
Ross.
Okay, hold on a minute. I
Qualified.
don't know if that's true. You're extrapolating from evolutionary psychology and applying it to your system. So it's a big leap. It's
Well,
one
it's a
thing.
practical manner. Remember how many women I've, you know,
We can both make
right?
those claims. And furthermore, what's more important is we can talk about what our students have done, because I think that's the most
Fair.
important.
That's nice. Yeah.
That's the most important thing to convey. But what I'm saying, it's one thing to do it as a gambit. It's another thing to show, and I may be misdefining or ill-defining your terms, so forgive me. It's
Well,
one thing.
I actually, if I may, I think that you and I have a commonality, and that is we're both gambit-centered thinkers. One of my beliefs is you should know what you're going to say before you say it. In other
I
words, know
agree.
your opener. And that's where we have a commonality, because you have patterns that people will memorize, and not just memorize, but make their own, you know? So it really sounds like their rant, right? They make a rant, and in a 3-minute rant, you can really, like Russell Brand, convey a lot of your personality, and the
I
girl can
wouldn't call it a
choose you
rant.
based on that.
That's a mischaracterization to call it a
Okay,
rant.
fair.
But in any case, I'm going to get back to this.
Please.
What I did with her was to show genuine curiosity, and my responses were based on what she was saying. It wasn't a generic question like, what would this be like if it was on X Factor or whatever it was you're saying. I'm saying the ability that I teach my students, the ability to put your agenda aside and genuine curiosity. I mean, real curiosity about what deeply moves that woman, not what TV shows she watches.
No,
Or
I have deep qualifications.
okay,
Again, it's phased.
okay. So I'm saying that that is something that needs to be refined and needs to be taught. And it takes someone who's very intelligent to do it in a way where it's deep, genuine curiosity. Had I not known what she was pointing at, what she was drawing, I may not have done so well. So part of learning speed seduction is you have to be smart, and you have to become more well-read, and you have to be more emotionally intelligent than the average bear. So in that sense, I think it's more transformational because it requires things. And I'll admit it. Look,
More transformational than what?
Say again, sir?
More transformational than what?
I think it's more transformational than what you're doing. I really do, because it's requiring someone to do more than just routines. It's requiring them to become more emotionally intelligent and to smarten up about their world.
It sounds like you haven't come to my boot camp. We had a weekend this weekend here in Toronto, and the students had, I believe, the experience of a lifetime, because they've met so many, they've had a chance to interact with so many groups of people and practice the material they need for the future. When a woman of particular quality comes along, they'll have performed each of their separate story gambits or qualifiers or openers or comfort building gambits. They have practiced them. They've gotten them out of their mouth in performance conditions enough times so that when a woman of particular quality comes along, they could run it all on them, and they won't have ums, ahs, pauses, awkward pauses. All that will be removed because of the practice. That seems to be a legitimate way for people to get good over a 3-day period. On night one,
Okay.
they're hesitant, but by night 3, they've opened a good 30 sets. Lots of
Let's
learning.
talk, let's talk about that, because there's something I think that's missing, and not just in what you're doing, but in every pickup system that I've seen. At least in my experience, having done this for decades,
Yeah.
thousands of people.
Yep, same here.
I would say 30 to 40% of the guys who come to this, whether it's a boot camp or a seminar, have serious trauma, whether it's from abusive parents or being bullied. And then so there's acute trauma. That's when you witness a car accident or you're molested or shot. There's chronic trauma. That's the trauma that's more low grade, but it goes on for a period of time. Look, being 30, 40, 50 years old and never having had sex is pretty freaking traumatic.
Yeah, yeah.
So if
Institutionalized.
you don't have techniques and processes to heal that person, you're essentially taking them, and no matter how well you guide them, no matter how many wingmen and trained coaches you have there side by side, essentially you're throwing them into the deep end of the emotional pool and saying swim. And so any system that doesn't have a dedicated, structured way to bring about that healing. And again, I've simplified it.
To be honest, what I say to people is I'm not a therapist.
Okay.
Pick a book. There's a distinction.
I'm not a therapist either, but what I teach is very deeply healing. It's it's going to sound like a plug, and it is a plug, but it's simple enough that the AI can teach you how to do it. So if you're not offering that, I'm serious. So if you're not offering that, 30 to 40% of the people who are coming may get the result while you're there. They may listen. I'm not going to argue with the results. They may indeed get the result. They're there when they're there with you. But when they go home and the same environment and the same old anchors, as we call them in NLP, and the same stuff is going on, and they get deeply triggered again, it's great they did good at the boot camp. They got their money's worth. But can they continue to carry it out into the world when they don't have the support of the trainer standing right there? I've said to students who are afraid at first to talk to women, I've said, if you had me in your ear on an earpiece and I was telling you exactly what to say, would you be so afraid? And they'd say, I'd still be afraid, but not so much. So when you have someone like Baxter or yourself or Blaze or some of the other coaches guiding these people, I could see how someone would get some great results.
They get to doing it on their own by the 3rd day. I can't, lay the girl for them. They're going to open their own sets.
I understand.
I don't for them.
I understand. When they go home,
building proficiency in others. And we've got 3 days to make it happen. And believe it or not, 3 days and 3 nights is a good amount of time to spend with Mystery and learn the ropes. Okay. I just bring them out to the public gatherings where the women are.
So when those 30 or 40% of the people who are deeply impacted come to your events, I'm assuming you don't screen them. You don't do any kind of...
No, we actually, to be honest, there is some vetting that takes place because, again, I'm not a therapist. So if, I believe that a potential student is going to be disruptive to the group in a way that, I'm not looking for followers, right?
No,
people to follow my direction, but I'm looking for good students, or at least ideal students, people who want to become great at this game. Otherwise, I feel like, I'm shucking pearls of wisdom from the oyster of my brain and placing them before those who just won't appreciate it, right? So I'm looking for those who wish to become really proficient at pickup. And I've got 3 days in the daytime. I teach the tools necessary to use at night, a practical application. And then we go infield and we meet the women. And if they have sticking points that I'll see patterns, just like in my television show. I watch the students, and then I can, after 3 sets, give them a little critique for the next 3 sets. And that seems to really improve people. Some people are leaning in and pecking, doing some basic errors. Some people aren't speaking loud enough, or their body language is just wrong, or they're touching with hover hand the back of a girl's shoulder. You've seen it all, Ross. You've seen it all. So, I have to course correct over the course of 3 nights of this. And by the 3rd night, they're doing great. I am so proud of my students. We just pulled off a caper this weekend here. It was a madhouse, Toronto. It was chaotic. But within that came a lot of education, a lot of experience for the boys. It was great.
So my question,
Mystery,
I'll put-
just a quick question for Mystery. I remember for our interview a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
you were saying your first boot camp student was Neil Strauss. So does that mean you're the guy who introduced the concept of boot camps to the industry?
I believe I did. There's always going to be another top dog. Everyone's going to try to vie for top dog, but they can't take away first. I'm the first to provide infield boot camps. Infield, bringing the boys after seminar into the nightclub environments, and just like the television show, showing the boys how it's done, showing them what good pickup looks like, how to properly engage in conversation with groups of people, in a pleasing manner, and then have them do it themselves.
If you want to go to
can do another
nightclubs,
two.
if you want to go to nightclubs and bars,
Mhm.
this has it all over. If
Or
you-
any event like a restaurant that
If-
has women there. We're just
Okay,
looking up where the women are.
okay.
And the best places are rooftop patio bars. Those are my favorite places of all time, anywhere in the world. New York City, Miami, Toronto, rooftop patio bars. Beautiful environments with which to meet beautiful women.
Okay.
They even give you they presume you have value because you're there. It's even
Again, I'm speaking now
Hmm.
to the guy out there who lives in rural Podunk, Idaho,
Okay.
or can't
Or
get
Butler,
information.
Small
Pennsylvania?
town. He's
Or
stuck in a
Butler,
small town.
or
He's got to get out.
someone else like that who cannot get the invitation to those places. Listen to me and hear me before you respond. You have a tremendous amount of status. You're Mystery. Baxter has a tremendous amount of status. He knows people who probably own those clubs.
Don't know what. It's
I
cold
didn't interrupt you. I
Fair.
didn't interrupt you.
All right.
So be fair to me.
Fair.
All right. So not everyone ICE is laughing. Not everyone has that kind of access. They just don't. How many guys can get bottle service? How many guys would want bottle service?
Well, there's
Guys can get invitation. Look, you're very well known in Toronto. You're a star in Toronto. You can walk. Yeah, you are. Don't be
the guys. I get a few guys coming up, taking pictures and wanting to meet me and thanking me for their life.
I understand, but
Other than that, the girls, it's cold approach
You can
pickup.
get
That's what I'm
those-
famous for.
you can get
Approach.
those invitations. Did you say cold approach?
It's cold approach pickup. That's my art form. Hot
So
approach is where they know you before you're
I do
arriving.
not approach. I teach,
What's that?
don't approach at all. I never approach. I only extend opportunities to connect with me in fun and powerful ways. Now, you may think that's just languaging, but language is powerful. What's the distinction between saying, I'm going to approach that person and I'm going to extend an opportunity to connect with them in a fun and powerful way? Language structures consciousness, shapes decisions, drives behavior. It determines what you can
I
visualize.
agree with all
Meaning
that.
you
We should
give-
change the word then. We should.
Meaning,
Approach
the
isn't a big
meaning-
enough. It's not defining enough.
meaning you give, the meaning you give the interaction. So I'm simply saying using language in a way, both to change yourself intrapersonally and to effectively connect with the other person interpersonally is extremely powerful. And my claim is speed seduction is the best way to do it, to capture and lead the imagination and the emotions, to stimulate a woman sexually, to get her into the state where she takes it on as her own idea. Because whatever you can get a person to imagine for themselves, whether it's in the context of sales, seduction, persuasion, influence, will be perceived by them as being their own thought. And therefore, they are far more likely to act on it and they will not resist it. And my claim, again, I'm going to repeat it again, you don't need 7 hours. You can do it in 30 minutes.
You can do it in 4. Well, yeah, but winning chess in 3 moves doesn't make you a chess master. If you can't, if betting a girl in the bathroom, not bedding,
I
sorry.
didn't say that.
The
I
girl
didn't
in the
say that.
bathroom.
I didn't say
Is
that.
your goal?
I didn't,
Go ahead.
whoa. You're mischaracterizing what I said.
All
What
right.
I'm saying is you can create that readiness. Now, personally, I'll just tell you personally, given my age and what I do and can't do, I don't, quote, close the deal for at least a month. And there's reasons for that, physiological reasons that I'm not going to get into. But there's, well, you know, there are things
And it's
you
also
can
up to her. When she's comfortable
Yeah.
enough to do
Yeah.
it, that's when you do it.
I totally get it. And in my way of doing things, at least at my age, both parties have to get tested, just among other things. And my finding, I think you'll agree with this, it's often the case that when the penis goes in, the crazy comes out. So I want to watch for some red flags.
Mm.
Is that making sense? But again, I'm going to keep circling back to this point. I understand what you're saying, and I believe you. When you say you take them out for 3 nights and they get results, I believe you. If it weren't true, you would have been sued or put out of
Oh,
business.
exactly. We've done that for many years.
I believe you.
Proud of my work.
Eric, I believe you.
Hmm.
The question is, once they go back to the old environment where the old anchors are there, the things that trigger them emotionally, where they're not emotionally well regulated, where they cannot self-regulate, you're providing co-regulation. You're helping them to co-regulate by being there. Even when you push them into set and they have to do it on their own, they know that you're there to support them. When you're not there, if you don't teach techniques to emotionally regulate and to be centered in yourself, you're going to have a problem when they go back to the old environment.
The education seems to stick. I'm getting lots of positive, year later, still in contact with my former students, turned some of them good friends. You bond over a 3-day and 3-night experience, like gaming together. So I would say that the long-term benefits, what are they going to do? Unlearn what they learned? Unexperience what they've
No.
It's too late for them. 3
No,
days,
no.
3 nights with mystery changes their game.
No. I'm not saying they learn it.
That's what it sounds like, Ross.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
It sounds like it.
It may sound like it, 'cause you're not hearing it. So let's try it again. When someone goes back to their environment where you're not present, if they come in and they're emotionally damaged and they have a lot of trauma, and my claim is that's 30 to 40% of them who could come. I don't do live events anymore. It's now AI. You can learn anything pretty much by just, give it a free trial.
Scanning your shirt. Exactly.
Now, let's scan the QR code. Okay, here's what I'm saying. Whether you're aware of it or not, 30 to 40% of people who are coming into your events have deep trauma. That's what I'm saying. Deep trauma is not healed or cured by getting laid at a boot camp. They're going to carry it with them, and that is going to get in their way. And one of my critiques of what you're doing, and anyone for that matter, is there's no system that, at least concurrently or prior to, either consecutively or before, deals with that. It's a big gap. It's just a big gap. It's not just for you, it's for any of the coaches, and I challenge other coaches on that.
Yeah, I vet my potential clients so that we don't have, loose cannons, people that are going to, behave poorly or not wish to perform. You have to try. You can fail.
Not what I'm talking about, but I don't want to die on this hill. So I'm not going to die on this hill. It's just not what I'm talking about. But
okay, well, perhaps we can move back to the because it's 4 to 10 hours as an average based on.
I'll just add on top of that.
Who's speaking? Where did that come from?
Can I turn on the air conditioner?
Guys,
Hold on. Give me a second.
I'm still here. Yeah. Go ahead. I was just
No.
gonna say what's he doing? The lives you guys have saved combined, I just cannot begin to comprehend. So I understand Ross does healing work, and Mr.
His
You have
clients are, I've been to
I
his
don't know,
I've been
a
to his boot,
vetting process.
and the clients that he has in his audience are just generally different than my clients, or at least it was in, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, Project Hollywood times, good times,
I'll agree with that.
you know?
That's true.
Hmm.
That's true.
Like we have a
When's
different
the last
client
time?
base, I guess. It seems.
Hmm. When's the last
Oh,
time you guys talked to each other before this?
25 years, 2004.
Yeah, 2004, 2005. It was during the Project Hollywood days. Oh, you also came to we had parties at Neil's place during
Yes.
my
And that
TV show.
fucker Neil, that
Oh
fucker
boy,
Neil.
I don't want to hear it. Plus,
Oh boy, that guy fucked my favorite ex-girlfriend. He broke the guy code. He didn't tell me. He didn't
well,
have
20 years,
permission.
man, you gotta let it go.
Oh, I've let it go, but I'm just
Okay.
never gonna. I will never deal with that fucker again.
Okay. Mm. By the way, he just
Neil,
had a
if you're
daughter
watching,
a week
come
ago.
on to, huh?
He just had a daughter.
What happened?
Neil Strauss just had his daughter 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Okay,
Okay.
he reproduced.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
A
same mother.
child in the world is always a good thing.
I've reproduced as well. I have a 10-year-old son and a 17-year-old daughter.
I
Very
never
proud.
wanted
Those
them.
are my
I
greatest
never
achievements.
wanted them. I never wanted them.
Oh,
And
my,
thank goodness, snip, snip, snip.
my greatest
Uh,
achievements are my
I
children.
could not get someone pregnant if baby Jesus held it while I shoved
Yeah,
it in.
one
But
less
I've
stress.
plenty of nieces and nephews. Can
This,
we take questions
for
from the audience? Is it possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right?
was just gonna get that. So Ross, there's a question for you from Beta Days. Hi Ross, how do you deal with a tension and anxiety that's with you all the time and affects your communication with women and learning delivering speed seduction? A feeling of hopelessness, but I still approach women. Thank you, Ross.
Sure, sure.
If you
Okay.
got a quick answer for
Exactly an
that.
illustration of what I'm talking about. First and foremost thing I teach is a form of meditation called mindfulness, where you're aware of the emotions as they arise. You don't identify with them, nor do you suppress them. So that's the first and foremost thing, that there's no such thing as shame. Shame is not a thing like gasoline in your tank and you're 2 quarts low and you have to pour more in. Shame is a process that you do with yourself. It's something that occurs in your neurology, in what you're visualizing, what you say to yourself. So first and foremost, and again, it's a promotion, but the AI will take you through exact sequences and steps to do it. But I teach my students, I even back when I taught live, I don't do it anymore. I required that they learn to meditate. That's first. Second thing is some hypnotic exercises that I do, because all of these problems are rooted at the subconscious mind. You can't reason your way out of them, at least not in my experience. So there's hypnotic techniques to use. And then finally, there's what I call acceptance confidence. So there's what I would call performance confidence. You've done something 10,000 times, so you're reasonably sure you'll do it right again. There's imagination confidence, where you imagine it in your mind. There's learning confidence. And then finally, there's an acceptance confidence. And that means you're willing to step into the unknown without needing a guarantee and give radical permission to the other person. Here's another story I insist on being allowed to tell because it's very, very instructive. I had a student come to me. He wanted me to take him to a restaurant where they had an outside area. I said, I don't like doing that. He said, I'll give you 10K. Now, I can make this joke because I am in the tribe, but being in the tribe, I said, bring it over. He brings it over. We go to the restaurant. This guy proceeds to he just crashes and burns. Now, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of being embarrassed for another person's shame, but I couldn't take him. I pull him out of there. This is 25 years ago. There was no Uber, no Lyft. We're waiting for a cab, and not 10 feet away in the driveway, there's a young lady. And I said, look, there's a beautiful lady waiting for her cab. She went batshit. She started swearing at me, wishing harm on my relatives. I took it in stride, but my student got really angry. He went to charge at her. I put my arm out and I said, no, she can do whatever she wants. We decide where we come from. And then I did the pattern interrupt. I said, look at her. She was still screaming, by the way. I said, look at her. She's someone's daughter. She's someone's sister. She's someone's best friend. Somewhere she's deeply loved. Now, she stopped screaming. There was a moment of confusion. She burst into tears, ran over to me, threw her arms around me, and was sobbing and said, that was the most loving thing I've ever heard anyone say to me. I feel such love for you and such a connection with you. What's your name? Blah, 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 blah. And then et cetera, et cetera. But what enabled me to do that? I accepted the situation and I gave her radical permission to have her first response without letting it be her best response. Now, what would most guys have done? They would have argued back, they would have begged for forgiveness, or they would have run away. I interrupted her pattern, but what made it possible was that acceptance confidence. So that's the final piece in the puzzle, to learn to have acceptance confidence, because you're not going to get performance confidence until you've done a lot of performing. Oftentimes, this approach anxiety comes about because guys are waiting for performance confidence, but you can't have it until you perform. You don't need it. You can have acceptance confidence. And finally, learning confidence, the confidence that you have a structure and a system to learn from every experience, whether the coach is with you or not. Again, the idea is that
Feedback. Nothing like feedback from the set you're in. You know, if you don't go home with the girls, you're debriefing what went wrong. You know, if you did something wrong, you have to figure out what that is for the next day so you won't keep repeating the
and I
same.
would say the real orientation is first and foremost, notice what you did right. See, here's the other thing, dealing with guys who are in a lot of pain, is oftentimes guys will see their progress through the pain of their past. I had a student who used my stuff and it took him about 6 weeks to get proficient. He went to a bar and I think his line he used on the woman, if I recall, was, I don't know what you're doing with all these other guys, but it's not working on me. And he introduced himself. That got a laugh. I don't remember the rest of it, but here's what I do remember. He told me that, like an idiot, this was his critical mistake in my eyes. Instead of doing what you would call bouncing, he gets her number. This is a long time ago. He puts her number on a card, right? He puts her number on a card, figures I'm going to play it cool. I'll wait 3 days. I didn't teach him this. This is sheer idiocy. 3 days later, he goes to look for the number. It's not there. He goes dumpster diving. After 90 minutes going through dirty diapers, cat shit, rotting food, he comes up empty-handed. No card, no number. He calls me and he says, Ross, I'm such a loser. My old self came back. Why do I always fail with women? Now, to me, as a hypnotist, this guy had to hypnotically hallucinate away everything he did right. All he could see is the mistake, because he was looking at all that progress, getting confident, going up, opening the girl, as you would say, doing my language patterns to get her aroused, making out with all of that. But all he saw was the mistake. So my point is, in order to learn proficiently, you have to have a system in place, an inner game in place that guarantees you're not going to be seeing your progress through the pain of your past. And that's another thing to answer this guy about his anxiety. That's probably his other problem. He doesn't really even have an anxiety problem. He has a shitty learning strategy. So I'll take the next question, or Eric can take the next one. I hope that answers.
Well, my thoughts are, when it comes to approach anxiety, you know, once you've opened the set and broken the ice, the approach anxiety sort of wanes, goes away a little bit. You're in set now and you're accepted. But before then, you could be, threatened by the future projection of a negative interaction, right? So if you know your opener, if you know what you're going to say before you say it, see, I'm much less concerned with confidence as I am with competence. If you can competently open with a good, prepared opener, your own, it doesn't have to be someone else's. You can write your own, but just know what you're going to say. It's going to reduce your approach anxiety quite dramatically. It really seems to help push my students forward when they know what they're going to say. We have a default opener. We each choose one before we begin our night, just in
I
case.
don't think there is approach anxiety. I think there's opportunity hesitation. The minute I get that idea into a student's head that it's not approach anxiety, it's opportunity hesitation, and they buy into that frame, either because I've installed it hypnotically or I've cleverly woven it into a story, 50% of the problem goes away. Again, the way you language things structures what you're going to be able to do, because language structures consciousness, shapes decisions, drives behavior. Can we get another question?
Please.
Yeah, just to read a few quick comments. There are a bunch of guys in the chat saying Baxter #1, and another guy saying
Baxter's currently on a rooftop patio out with the girls that we've met over the last few days, the last 3 nights. So I want to be out there at some point too, respectfully.
I love that.
Someone also says Rob Beck, Mystery's wingman, good friend, is by far the best I've seen Infield. His game is very natural and playful. The girls are laughing the entire time. It's genuinely a fun interaction. There's also a comment that says,
by the way,
we want to see Neil versus Ross PvP.
I will never
Neil,
speak to that man. I will never speak to that man. I will never speak to that man unless he profusely apologizes for fucking my favorite ex without asking me. By the way, Baxter will tell you, he messaged me. It's no betrayal of his trust. He uses elements of both speech seduction and mystery method. He combines them. So
I've watched his game. He's not running patterns, but the idea of our delivery, the way I see it is there's structure, then there's material to fill the structure, and then there's the delivery of that material. So the way we deliver does, have some NLP like spellcraft, if I'll use that term.
What do you mean? Can you unpack what you mean by the way you deliver?
Well,
That's similar to NLP.
Pauses, the way of captivating a group through the use of languaging, those do play into it, but we just put it under delivery. When material is basically, we have openers, short stories, that's an opener. That's all an opener is, a short story. And you can open with a short story. If it doesn't hook, we can stack openers. That's, stack 2 or 3 short stories together before going into your longer stories. 3 to 5 minutes is all we have for a good first impression. And then we're off into qualifying the girl already and getting her to invest in us. That's the natural phase by phase way of picking up. You have to open, but you don't have to walk across the bar and go all the way to a set that's sitting in the corner. You can do over the shoulder stuff too. Hey guys, quick question. Did you see the fight outside? Initiate a conversation over the shoulder.
I get all that.
You cannot get blown out if you're not in set.
Okay. I'm not talking about sets. You're talking about something that I don't do. But more importantly, I'm going to return to my original point because it's a good circle back, a good callback. I can only tell you what Baxter told me is he uses the best of both styles. That's what he told me. Fair. And I love the guy. We have that in common. I love Baxter.
What you give, Ross, and what you've given to countless men who have not met you yet, just, your existence in the manosphere or in the industry is hope. You are a symbol of hope for a lot of men. So cheers to that.
the bat.
Mm.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's good. Got a
I
few
think I
more
delivered
super
more than well.
chats.
Thank you.
Got a few more super chats in, so gonna read those out. Fontarolo says, "You've both changed my life, but clear Ross dealt. Erik hasn't been in my years since 2007, yet it works wonders in day game with no money. Only reason I don't use it anymore is because I'm married now."
So, you mumbled.
Congratulations.
I didn't get that. Can you say it again clearly? You mumbled it in my ears.
God damn it, Ross. Okay, fine. You've both changed my life, but clear Ross dealt. I don't know. That's just how I don't know what he means by that. Erik hasn't been in my years. I don't know what that means. In his life since
Read another one.
2007.
That's a butchered
Read
message.
another one. Read another
Butchered
one.
message.
Guys, please learn to write
Well,
so
not
so that we can all
Read
understand.
another.
Next one. Nestor Valentino says, "Ross, what do you think of Dr. Albert Ellis's works? One of the OGs."
Okay, so Albert Ellis was the guy who created rational emotive therapy. I don't want to get into therapeutic discussions. I'll just say that I think rational emotive therapy is very limited because it's all dealing with self-talk. And the problem with the guys in our field, and Erik will confirm this, they're already too much in their head, talking, yammering. Trying to argue with better dialogue is not the way to go. If you take nothing away from this lesson, from me at least, that I would like to teach, if you let your internal dialogue be the architect of your life, you're fucked. Let your courage and your curiosity and your willingness to joyfully explore decide for you what you can create in your life. Do not let your internal dialogue do it. That's the difference between someone who lives a big life rather than someone who's just surviving rather than
Thriving.
thriving.
Good stuff.
Next one from Young Villain Mystery. Would you do a talk or a debate with John Anthony? Despite his criticism, he respects you a lot and gives you credit for his early success. I'll just throw onto this my little response. I think he kind of burned that bridge personally. He attacks a lot of people.
I have 4 words. Don't feed the trolls.
Don't feed the trolls. I agree.
That's
great. I love it. Yeah. Next one. That's perfect answer right there. Thank you, Mystery. And thanks, Young Villain. Better days. It drives you nuts, Ross, as you study speed seduction and then freeze up or just don't deliver speed seduction properly. I know Discovery Channel, BJ, and IC pattern, but it's so frustrating when you just don't absorb the learning.
Okay.
It
Let me
takes
address
practice.
this.
No matter what.
Practice, but let me address this. So what he's mentioning are incredible connection, the blowjob pattern, and Discovery Channel pattern. These are patterns I came up with in 1995 when speed seduction was about long recitations. So 1995 is almost 30 years ago. No, 95 is what? Yeah, it's 2024. It's a long time. I have trimmed and slimmed down speed seduction, so you don't need to memorize nearly as much. All you need is like heart on sleeve, it's 3 minutes. The laughter pattern is 3 minutes, and maybe a little. I've trimmed and slimmed it down that you don't have to worry about memorizing nearly so much. Again, this will tell you word for word if you're out in the field and you're stuck and go, what do I say next? Pop into the bathroom. Ask the bot the question. It'll tell you exactly the language pattern. And it's very short, very small. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'm going to hammer this home again and again and again. What frame of mind are you in? What are you doing to prepare your mind? How are you visualizing success? What's your attitude and definition of success? And do you have a system in place where you can learn from every experience when the coach isn't there? What is the learn? And this is also applies to sales, because I'm also now, I'm also have mapped it over into selling. And every sales training I've seen out there, I've been to so many self-improvement seminars, and they say, just learn from your mistakes. That's great, but no one gives you a process. So One of the things I've added in over the last 5 or 6 years is a process to learn from your mistakes by first noticing what you've done right. Now, you can notice what you've done right intrapersonally in terms of how you prepared yourself, interpersonally, how you've interacted with other people. You can notice what you've done right in your preparation, what you've done right in the beginning, what you've done that you return to recursively, because there are aspects of speed seduction where you do it all the time, and sometimes you have to return to it. So I've got those different categories, and some of the way, sort of similar to the way Erik has it in approaching the woman. I just categorize how you can learn from your experience. So that would be my answer to that.
My thoughts on that are, if you do something wrong a dozen times in a night, the pathway of what you should have done will reveal itself for the next day. It's an idea.
It's an idea.
It's a soundbite anyway.
Oh, I know about sound bites. It's how I got on TV shows in the 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
Next one, Zeus Williams, genuine question for Mystery. Why don't you use NLP concepts in your model? What's stopping you? Why do you drag a session for 6 hours?
Right. It's 4 to 10 hours is the average pickup if you backwards rationalize hundreds of successes. Remember, I've had the good fortune of traveling the world and meeting scores of proficient pickup artists around the world. So I've noticed that they all share a commonality, the good ones, at least the ones that look good to me. They all had a laugh track in their pickups. The serious pickup is not nearly as impactful as a laugh track throughout all the way to the bedroom.
I agree.
You know, if there's no laughing in your set, I believe you're doing something wrong, son.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. I agree 100%.
Even negs. Negs, the result of a neg, you know, the big controversy of a neg is laughter. If the neg hits, they're laughing. You know, if you say, oh, you're on the fence. What? There's a fence? Yep. And you're on it. You can come or go. Don't know. She's like being put on the spot. You know, it's just a frame, a little compliance test, a little frame to set for fun, right? And she has to, you know, accept that frame that you've set, right? That's half the fun of teasing. The reaction should be, oh, I can't believe you just said that. Oh, you know, almost like it's a subtle, slight social violation, you know, from pure rapport. You're breaking rapport.
I don't know enough of, I don't really know. It's totally inappropriate for me to define what an egg is. That's your baby. And so I'm not going to do it. My misinterpretation of what others have said to me is that sometimes if it's not delivered skillfully, I'm sure you deliver it skillfully.
It comes off as an insult.
Yeah.
Insults are not negs.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I'm not out to insult women.
No,
That's
me
my
neither.
intention. Never was. In fact, the definition of the neg that you've most likely read is a neg of the neg. It's just someone had written it. I'm the one who took the time to define a neg. A neg is a statement or action to briefly disqualify oneself from being considered a potential suitor. That's what it is. So if I go to blow my nose, I'm not trying to make a girl feel small. I'm just blowing my nose in front of her, right? But what that shows her is that I'm not after her.
Why? What is wrong, Erik?
It demonstrates that I'm not needy.
From the heart.
Hmm?
What is ineffective if you can do it with a sense of humor, and if you can do it with balls?
Yeah.
Over and over and over, I've had women say to me, "Your balls," and telling me. Now, I don't give a direct compliment. I would say to a woman, "You're so beautiful. I come talk to you." I would say something like, "You know, when I saw you, I thought to myself, she probably gets approached 100 times a month. Come up with something different and see if she has a sense of humor that would make her fun to mess with for a minute."
Yeah.
I implied the compliment. If you do it skillfully and you imply the compliment, because again, I'll make this point again, what you get a person to imagine for themselves will be perceived by them as being their own thought. Now, there's a few ways to do it. You can be vague. so they don't know exactly who's it being applied to. You can use implication. So my statement is you can be direct. You can even give a compliment that's implied without directly saying it. You can express interest if you know how to do it, if you have the skill set. See, one of the things I've learned is over the years, as I mature as a teacher and a thinker, nothing I say is true with a capital T. It's only my model. It's only my map. And where we get confused is where we try to drive on the map or we try to eat the menu rather than the meal. And I'm saying that maybe there's something on my map that enables people to do things that might not be possible on your own. I can tell you over and over and over, if you do it right, if you do it right, you can be direct.
Never, I mean, you haven't taken, you never came into a club with us. You have negative connotations to clubs. I have positive references. That's why I've continued to do them. I'm 52 years old.
I
went out
congratulate you for it. I don't like noise. I don't like noise. I
so
don't
much
like
fun.
club.
It's fun.
Tiger. The only club that Baxter ever took me to is Tiger in London. I had to leave within a minute because the noise was
women
so
are
Oh
so
God,
loud.
no.
The noise was
Understandable.
so loud.
Tiger, fuck.
It is, but the women are beautiful, and you work for a 3-minute set.
Man,
and get them to the quiet
Tiger,
area.
fuck that place.
Maybe
them
it's
to the
my
quiet area.
brain. I have damage to the left parietal lobe of my brain. It's the part that processes sound. So I'm overwhelmed by loud noise. I don't even like the leaf blower outside my window in the morning. I have to wear ear protectors. So I just can't take the noise.
Fair.
But
Yeah. Last night we had one of the clubs was loud.
That's
I had fun in there, pulled girls. We went to an after hours place where they got to meet up with them again. So it all seemed to work itself out.
I'm in
Yes,
bed.
they're
I'm in
loud.
bed by 11 a.m. After hours for me would be torture, unless it's Scarlett Johansson and Margot Robbie banging down my door to think of new ways to be nice to me. Do we have any more questions?
Shall we move forward?
Yeah, Kenma,
yeah.
forward.
Yeah, I got a question from Jordan Bamboom. Mystery, what's your opinion on Ross's speed seduction pros and cons? Ross, how does your storytelling work on multi-sets in your opinion on next? Could you just keep this answer brief?
That's a long question to
Give us
require.
another question then.
Give us another one.
Yeah, we can cherry pick. Something where we can offer some value too.
Yeah, because that kind of gets answered. John Benedict, how would Ross approach large mixed sets out and about? I don't like clubs and loud bars either, but I find myself feeling impotent when facing mixed sets at chill patio bars, restaurants, and so on.
That's what we did.
Okay.
Chill patio bars, restaurants.
So this is not my strong suit. I have done it with it. There's certain. Okay, this is not my strong suit. Learn from Mystery if you want to learn this. However, that said, there's certain contexts where it's doable, and I'm just going to give you the narrow context where it is doable. So again, I live in Southern California. I'm here in San Diego. I think it's a California thing. Women have these events where they're in cacao circles and we're all holding hands and we're chanting and we're all in a nice trance state. And you can go and you can talk to, they're all in a trance, whether they're in a group or whether they're on their own. And you can start, I call it steal the teacher's anchors. So I don't look at the women, I look at the teacher. And I look at what they're doing with their speech. I look at their gestures. I look at their facial expressions. And I just fire off those anchors. I do their facial expressions. I do their self touches. I speak in their cadence. And the women are reacting to me the way they react to the teacher. So now I've got them eating out of the palm of my hand. Now, that's in that context. When it comes, if you want to learn clubs, bars, go see Erik. I don't do that stuff. I never claimed to be able to do it. He's the master. He and Baxter and Blaze. Blaze is your other Blaze.
And a
Go see,
Blaze.
go see Eric. If you don't want to work in those environments, come see me. And also, I
Or
have
respectfully, why not both in this
why
case?
not both?
Why not
Why
both?
not both?
Because I believe strongly that a lot of the patterns, a pattern to me, I'm going to define as a gambit, which is a game piece, and it can fit in many different phases, right? An opener can be used to open, or it's a short story. You can use it later as well to fill time. That's what I believe is our commonality. We both have created gambits that you memorize and recite, you know, with good delivery in order to come off calm, cool, and collected. No ums, ahs, or pauses, awkward pauses, because you've taken the time to practice your gambits. If you fill your timeline with gambits that you have prepared, you won't have awkward pauses that can lose the set. You know, well, you talk for 10 minutes with the girl and it, you know, nice meeting you, goodbye, and off they go. You want to create some sort of investment. So moving to a sit down and having something to say with her, to ask her questions, to get to know her at a genuine level. That's something that should be in your timeline for every pickup as waypoints.
I agree with that. I would just slightly modify it by saying we're not, I don't know what you mean by gambit. We're talking directly to the unconscious mind. It's something I lifted from Milton Erickson's work, who was to hypnosis what Einstein was to physics. So we're doing something a little bit deeper than that. We're directly addressing the unconscious mind, dropping suggestions to get emotional responses, flows of feeling going in the body. Her pussy is wet. She feels warmth and heat in her breast. She's visualizing fucking you, all sorts of shit you can get really, really quickly. But I don't see why not. Maybe one day in the future we'll fucking work together. Who knows? That would be, and that would be an awesome thing.
Russ, I don't know if people know this, but we've done it in the past, you know? We've shared the same stage at different times. So why not do that again?
Why not?
Perspective.
Why not? I bet we would get a huge audience for that. But in any case, yeah, more questions. I love questions.
Last question we got here, Nolan Richards, mystery, how effective is your method in the day one-on-one? Ross, how effective is your system in the nightclub setting? Not necessarily in the club, but
Okay, well,
outside on the street, for example.
If I could front this first, kindly. What was the question again? I want to get it right.
Mystery, how effective is your method in the day one-on-one?
Okay, I believe that the day game sets, or single approach sets usually are in day game. They're bonus rounds. They're what I call they're what I call zero level game, is opening singles. We should start at opening 3 sets. That's where you can get a learning curve. So if you're opening single sets, you're not really getting, you know, one every hour in the daytime, going to a mall or you know, trying to find a girl. If she happens to be in line in a cafe, then by all means, you know, over the shoulder, open the set. It's a bonus round. But if you want to get really good at your gambits, then the more sets you do in the same amount of time, I believe, the better. Especially when you're focused on getting your gambits together, getting your material together, getting talkative. You do a dozen sets in a night for one night, and the next night, your sets are going to go remarkably better because you've had that experience. That's how I see it. So I'd rather bring the guys into public gatherings and give them a flood of experience rather than us walk around low-valued males trying to pick up girls by themselves in the daytime.
What does it mean? How do you assign? Let me ask you this. Value as measured.
Oh, no, I've seen the guys
value measured by
on the
what
street.
units? Value measured in what units of measurement as determined by whom? I think all human beings have value. What does that mean, low value? I don't know what that means. It's so
Okay.
ambiguous and so ill.
It's not to me. Value is survival and replication value. Serve. Do they serve you? If there's indicators, if they say, for instance, the vagrant's opener, excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you, but I was wondering if I could ask you a question. Excuse me, the vagrant's opener. I'd rather say, hey guys, quick question, rather than excuse me, because they've heard it before. They've heard it from negative people.
To me, value is stimulating a woman's emotions and taking her through the emotions she wants to feel. Fascination, attraction, desire, fantasy, escape, indulgence. I teach my students to center their conversation around these things. That's value. The valuable man is whoever can create those emotional states as quickly as possible. That's my definition of value. It can be measured. Look, there's no way to actually show that when you demonstrate that you have survival value to a woman or replication value, whatever it is you say, you can't observe what genes are being turned on.
You can
hold on.
see reaction.
You cannot observe that there's certain genes being turned off and genes being turned on. It's impossible to observe. I can observe
reaction.
I can observe that a woman's experiencing those emotions. I can observe that she's feeling desire. I can boom, boom. I can see her face get red. I can see her lower lip get bigger. Yeah, I can see it happening in real time. To me, the highest value man to that woman in that moment is the one who runs her through those emotions as quickly and as intensely as she can take. That's what the bot is teaching my students to do. It's what I used to teach. If you have $50,000 and you want to throw it at me in cash, I'll teach you. Otherwise, this is the only way to learn from me. That's my definition of value. I think it's something that you can observe. Whether you can observe things from evolutionary psychology or not, it's not verifiable. It may be true. I'm not saying it's not true, but it's not verifiable. You can't see genes switching on or switching off.
But what you can do is backwards rationalize your successes and know that there was an attraction moment, whether it happened late in the game or early in the game. The result is you got the girl, son.
Eric, how much of that is coming from your personal charisma, your personal power, your personal charm? The fact that you, Erik Von Markovik, hold on, please. And the fact that you are a leader of men. You are indeed factually a leader of men. When you tell that story, it's congruent with who you are. That's number one. And actually, when you tell that story, maybe you're not demonstrating higher value. Maybe you're just creating fascination and attention through being a good storyteller. Maybe you're not tripping, maybe you're not tripping attraction triggers.
I'm going to have to write this down.
What's observably true is you're just getting hypnotic focus by being a fantastic storyteller and having a lot of personal power.
There's a lot more to it, Ross. You have preconceived notions of what I'm teaching, and there's something to learn. It's not just putting a fire under their ass for a weekend, hoping that they'll get some success and then they go home and, cry.
I'm not talking about
that's how you framed it
No.
That's how you did frame it.
No. The frame was maybe what you're actually doing. Maybe what you're actually doing when you tell these stories that demonstrate higher value, you're demonstrating you're a great storyteller, number one, and you're creating states of focus that are hypnotic and that cause arousal in the body, flows of feeling in the body.
Not concerned with arousal. I'm not concerned with arousal. Arousal belongs in seduction. We're not trying to arouse a woman in the club and then keep her buying temperature raised all the way to the bedroom as quickly as we can possibly go. If I slow it down and anchor it, speed it up.
You don't know how to anchor.
By the way, that's what Baxter does. He learned from you, I'm sure. Anchoring. He does anchor, pointing to me, pointing away. He does anchoring. That's one of the things that Dexter is, you know,
Dexter's very versatile.
yeah, he does anchoring.
Bring him on camera, can you?
He's not here. He's at the rooftop patio party right now.
Cool.
That's where I'm off to next. And the sun's coming out, so it's going to work out for us.
More questions.
Please.
Ross, did you answer the question, how effective is your system in the night game setting, like outside on the street?
What do you mean by night? I've seduced women on airplanes at night. If you mean bars and clubs, ineffective, doesn't work, go to Erik. I don't
And
know.
I'm going to disagree with you there, because your stuff does work, and it would work in a club if you can get them to the quiet area and get to a sit down. When you're in one-on-one with the girl, you can run patterns. When you're in a group with people, you can, but everyone's going to hear it and is going to be entertained by what you're saying.
Wait. Is that a tacit statement that you do run patterns when you get them one-on-one and quiet?
No. I'm saying that you can. I've seen you do it. You've worked a waitress. I saw you work a waitress. She was titillated. She enjoyed your company. We also know what you're like. We don't have to watch you do a set to understand what you're like, because you're doing a set with us. We get to judge, the type of person you are.
My question is, why not use language patterns, speech selection language patterns, once you have her in comfort and you've got her in a quiet place? I think it would be an ideal place to use them.
Well, I like going Kino. Rather than elicit her emotions through wordplay, I would rather physically escalate. It's more fun. Like, if you don't kiss the girl, she may get bored and leave.
I agree.
Kiss the girl, she'll stick around.
You can do them again. This is a matter of the misconception that you have to do it sequentially. You can do these things simultaneously and together. I think this is one of our major disagreements, is whether you do things simultaneously or whether you do them sequentially. I'm saying all of these things you can do simultaneously if you have the skill set. You don't have to do them sequentially.
I see that as an error. Beginning at the end is to begin with seduction.
I don't think you're beginning with seduction. You're beginning
in the middle is to.
I don't think that's what you're doing.
Friends.
I think what you're doing is doing things simultaneously. It's not about beginning or ending. It's doing things simultaneously.
Okay, so my belief is that there is a timeline, and you have to do things sequentially on a timeline, and you cannot go back in time. It's a sequence. So you have A1, A2, A3, move to C1. Every set.
It's called recursion.
A3, move to C1. Every set. That's pickup.
It's called recursion. When you could return to things.
That's right. No need for recursion, because you solidified the objective of every phase in order. And so when you've completed one phase, you then move on to the next.
I don't think things happen in distinct
phases. It works.
Okay, and it works for me not to do it that way.
Tens of thousands of people,
tens of thousands of my students, to do things simultaneously and to do it doesn't take 7 hours. You can do it in less than an hour, and it's not.
You're compromising solid game. You're compromising a successful relationship.
I don't think that's
and
true.
Get buyer's remorse if you do it under a minute.
I don't. Well, a minute. I'm not claiming.
No, under an hour. Forgive me. Under an hour. It can be done. Certainly, I've opened with makeouts. I can open with makeouts or open in qualifying. Presuming I have attraction because I'm seen with girls. But the solid game is to do it step by step. Don't skip steps. No need. You don't have to shrink the time. If you slow it down, she'll speed it up. All you do is A1, A2, A3, move to C1. Every pickup is like that. And it gets you a solid interaction to isolate your woman of interest on a couch, get to know each other.
You can do it simultaneously. I can guarantee you, when I talked to that woman on the airplane, she was fascinated. And the fact that I was so intelligent also got her aroused. And she felt comfortable with me all simultaneously, because I showed I was very curious and that I understood her world. All of that happened either simultaneously or so quickly in sequence that virtually can be viewed as simultaneous. That's where we have a major disagreement. Do we have another question? Because we're going back and forth.
No, but no worries. No worries. in the education here. Go ahead.
That's okay. There are no more super chat questions, but could you guys tell us how you met? It's like I'm sure we wanted like the guys watching are kind of fascinated by the stuff about the game. So
I
I
I
how did you
suspect
guys actually end up
I
meeting?
suspect we were both invited to the same gathering in the daytime, a
I
gathering.
think I think it was at Project Hollywood.
Okay.
Here are my recollections. I do recollect at Mel's Diner. I don't know, it's how we first met.
Yeah.
Sitting around the table with Eric, with Neil, Limach Shemo. I would say to him in Hebrew, Neil, if you're watching, you know what that meant in Hebrew. Anyone
Okay,
who's
I don't. So who's he?
Neil Strauss.
No,
No,
who's Machimo?
Limach Shemo is a curse in Hebrew.
Okay.
So Neil, Eric, Tyler, or Owen, when Owen was a fresh-faced kid off the boat in Canada.
Yeah.
At the time, Owen just didn't make eye contact. He was very socially awkward.
Yeah.
Uh, Papa was
Found his
there.
voice.
Hmm?
TD, Tyler Durden, Owen. He found
Yeah,
his voice, didn't he?
yeah, he sure did.
He sure did.
Sure did. But power to him, man. That guy
Yeah.
has got a work ethic second to none.
Yeah.
And I think Papa, his business partner at the time, came along. I don't quite remember. And that was it. And then I remember, as Eric recalled in his interview with you, we were both giving talks at Project Hollywood. Eric was I don't remember you being in the whirlpool or
I was in the whirlpool while you
I
were there
believe you.
watching. I was so excited by that. I had a beautiful girl with me that I was madly in love with at the time. She was very attractive. HB the one. And so I was in the pool with her while you were in front of what, 100 guys, 80 guys?
I don't know. And
We
Tyler,
just filled that
Owen
place.
was laying at my feet like,
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's what you did. You inspired hope in people, all those people, because they all went out. Everyone after our seminars would go game Hollywood Boulevard. They'd go to the Standard Lounge, some of the
poor
nicest
people
places
in
in
poor
Hollywood.
people on Hollywood Boulevard getting the same stuff thrown at them over and over and over again. Here they come marching down the street.
Yeah, trying all the tactics and techniques that they've learned in the day. There was a lot of energy to it. It was quite an extraordinary entourage, to go with 20, 30 people to the club and get in all at the same time and just, take over. Great fun. Any other thoughts to
I
share?
used to do that every week. Used to do that every week. There's a place in London I used to go to like every single week, and between 5 and 25 of us would be there every single week. It was just hilarious. But anyway, one of the things a lot of guys are learning is that Ross loves one-on-one and Mystery loves mixed sets. Have you kind of finished covering that, or is there a bit more to
We've
that
covered
topic?
it. We've covered it.
Okay. Next idea.
Um, have we covered everything? Let me just read for the list. Day game versus night game, single approach theory versus group. Yeah, that's that. Group approach theory.
Yeah.
Structure, qualifying, gambits, patterns, boyfriend destroyers,
Want to talk
trauma.
about
I
the
remember we
The
talked about
boyfriend
that.
destroyer is misunderstood.
Anything else you?
The boyfriend destroyer is misunderstood. It's misunderstood. It's just one of an example of pattern interrupts. It's just a pattern interrupt. I can do pattern interrupts at any time. Look, sometimes I agree with Eric on something. Just because a woman says she has a boyfriend doesn't mean she does. And even if she does, he could be a placeholder. Doesn't mean jack shit. Now, that's not always true. Some women are really in love with the guys they're with, and more power to them. But so if a woman does say to me, and it doesn't come up so much anymore, but if she does say, I have a boyfriend, I'm going to interrupt the pattern and I'm going to switch the frame. I'm going to say, now, Debbie. By the way, I've never done a Debbie. I'll say, Debbie, you don't need to prove to me someone else finds you attractive. That's not how I'll make up my mind about you. which is an incredible pattern interrupt. It gets a laugh and it reverses the whole idea of who's seeking whom from what. I'm now,
The one I use, if I may,
yeah.
is we're all seeing someone. That's just a minimizer, right? You just take it and minimize. But the real, if you do pick up well, you won't get the boyfriend objection.
Not that often, no.
It doesn't come up if she's attracted to you. She just won't bring it up. She'll hold that, that secret. And, in one of my long-term relationships, as I recall, this is a few years back now, she didn't tell me for 3 days that she had a boyfriend. It was too late by then. We started a relationship, and then she traveled with me to the next city. So
I'll tell you a good one. I'll tell you a good one.
you won't have the objection
I agree.
if you game properly, if you
Occasionally do. I remember a woman named Cheryl. Cheryl was a bodybuilder. She could have broken me in half. And when I did my shtick on Cheryl, she said, I'm sorry, I'm really into the guy I'm with. Otherwise, I would snap you up. I said, if at some point, maybe a couple of weeks from now, I don't know exactly when, you might stop and think to yourself, is he with me in the way I truly want him to be? And when that occurs, you'll look for my number right here on this card. Now, she called me 2 months later and she said, you know what? I couldn't get that thought out of my mind. And I just came to the conclusion, he's not who I truly want to be with. The key to that little thing was I future paced her. I gave her suggestions and commands to imagine a time in the future. I didn't say exactly when, so her unconscious filled in the blank. And I used a female mechanism that's there. We call it incorporation in NLP, which means females are constantly questioning, is this guy truly the guy for me? Is he really the one? They talk to their friends about it. So I just hijacked that mechanism. It's another example of utilizing unconscious processes and unconscious communication. And again, my overall message is if you're leaving that out of what you're doing, you're leaving a tremendous amount of power on the table. You're not picking it up and using it. More questions?
Good thoughts, Ross.
Way, plug.
Boyfriend
I
blast.
just want to throw. I want to throw on top of that, those are some very good ideas from both of you. I like to ask, how's your love life? I hate when someone asks me, how are
I'm
you?
single.
Because it's like in society, a very basic question.
I'm single now. I am guilt-free.
How's your love life? That's the one I like to ask.
Single
Yeah,
is
that's cool.
How are you doing, Ross? Are you in a relationship presently?
No, and I don't want one.
All right.
Trust me, it's just too crazy out there. And I'm busy also. I will say I'm busy at building this business. I've been invited to speak in Dubai in front of 2,500 people on using the power of hypnotic language to sell. And there's a lot of money in Dubai. There's no broke ass people.
When are you
in
going?
Dubai. I will be there November. Well, the talk is November 16th and 17th is the conference. I'm going to go way early because the jet lag for me is substantial. But I'm working on that. I'm taking on very wealthy clients who want my advice on hypnotic selling. So I'm fucking busy building that business. I don't have time for anyone who isn't, and you're going to agree with this. I know you will because you're an experienced man. So are you guys. I won't get with anyone who's not emotionally fairly well regulated, is on my team and shows respect and brings me peace. Hot at my
I like that.
is relatively less important. She's got to bring me she's got to show me respect, bring me peace, be on my team, and be relatively emotionally well regulated. Otherwise,
you do qualify women
in here.
Yeah.
I don't do it externally in here.
Here's a thought just came up here. When I think of qualifying as, the phase about 5 minutes in where you're asking her questions to get her to invest finally, I think of it as false qualifying. I'm going to misinterpret everything she says as you know, except for intermittent reward and punishment, I'm going to misinterpret what she says as positive and reward her for the good behavior of investing anything in me. I'm not actually judging her by the, you know, if I ask the question, is there more to you than meets the eye? And she doesn't answer it right, I'm going to what? Not pursue her? I'd rather turn her into a friend, make her comfortable, establish trust, see her on another occasion. And on a day two, I can actually qualify her.
Whoa. You said something interesting. I thought I heard the words intermittent reward and punishment come out of your mouth.
Well, just intermittent reward, not punishment, intermittent reward.
Okay, so
75% of the time you reward somebody for interacting with you. If you say, name 3 things that would make me want to get to know you more, and she starts naming 3 things, reward her for it.
that's in my twin brothers pattern. I've been teaching that since 1990.
No doubt. No doubt. I've read your stuff. I do recall. I just replaced your gambits with my gambits because my gambits create, well, remember, I'm a magician, if I may. This one's a fun one. Check this one out. This one is a visual one. I'm going to make this ring vanish from my right hand and appear in my left hand on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Huh? How cool is that? Now for the hard part, to bring it back. 3, 2, 1, back. There it is. I know what you're thinking. 2 rings. No.
Damn.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Well, it is a miracle. That's just a joke. All it is discount magic. Neil Strauss's discount magic.
Neil Strauss is a discount thinker.
I'm telling you, it hit big. The things funny in grade 3 are funny again in Field. We had a blast with the silliest jokes that broke the ice. So remember, it's not, for me, it's about the comedy of it. It's about keeping the levity, adding value, you know, to the interaction.
I agree.
And,
Hey,
and not trying to seduce her too fast in the wrong location. That's my thought. What was that?
Yeah, I would say if you're not laughing, if they're not laughing, you've missed the whole point of the script and you're not doing speed seduction. I've said this over and over and over and over and over, as the bot will guide you for free for the first 7 days. Give it a shot. Plug.
Hey, if we're plugging stuff, I've got a new course, 10 years of footage of boot camps collected, over 30 hours of footage now, curated into 70 modules that you listen to 1 a day for 10 weeks. And it's available at attractionunleashed.com. It's all there now, including my new stuff, you know, the 5 levels of game, the 5 keys to proficient pickup, Mystery 2.0. It's all in there.
You know, I used to love that model of selling courses, but what I've found is guys don't want to wade through however good the material is. Guys don't have the time to wade through a whole course. They want to be able to type in, hey, I'm in this situation. How does this work? And then have the AI tell them exactly what it is. They want to be able to get the specific answers. Ice, you're smiling, maybe not because that's a plug, but you also have your own AI. So I found the course, the business model, the course collection may have crazy good stuff, but the business model of selling courses, unless you have an element of life support, you have to keep the price point too low for me to,
well, it's an offer. It's a training offer, providing the value that I have videoed. You know, the content is now available for others. It's less about the money and more about the offer. You know, I want to put it, I have the footage. Where do I put it? I want people to see it, you know? Good. So it's now up. It's now up. Maybe it's not the ideal business model, but then again, is pickup an ideal business model? If I was doing it for the money, I'd do something else. But I'm doing it for the love of God. Business model. This is my hobby. This is my vocation. This is my way of life, my way of being. I absolutely love it. If it weren't for pickup, if it weren't for magic, I wouldn't be where I am today.
And if it weren't for seduction and doing the healing art, I would be missing a lot of meaning in my life. I joke around about get laid now, ask me how, but I do it because I have to balance how humbling it is to do this job. And I'm sure you've had this happen too, Eric. I've had guys say, I had the gun on the nightstand before I came to the event. I was going to eat the bullet. This is, I don't know why you're laughing, Ice, because it's not funny.
No,
It's really,
no.
really serious stuff.
I'm living that too. I understand. I totally understand that for some people, this is the last straw, you know? But then I wake them up to a lifestyle of that. If they get good at something, if they get good at this, they're Gambits, they get good at it, they can achieve some incredible life-changing results. It only takes one woman to change your life, for good or bad.
Or
It
to
might be
ruin
bad.
it.
It
Or
might
to
be bad.
ruin it. No, to
But at
ruin it.
least your life will change, you know? I leave
Or
it
to
up to
ruin
the
it.
right
Christina
girl.
from Denmark, you know who I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
I like the Scandinavian. Scandinavia has been extremely good to me.
Yep, I do too. I do too. In fact, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to Helsinki with Baxter. We're running our Helsinki boot camp in 2 weeks' time. So anyone who would like to come to Helsinki, where the women are absolutely beautiful, train by day, game by night with us, you will learn what good pickup looks like. It does not look like pickup. It looks conversational because it is. And you get to see what it looks like so you can replicate it. What one man can do, another can do. I believe in that.
I believe in it as well, provided they have a good structure for learning and they've done their healing work. A lot of guys just need that healing.
I'm more of an outer game guy than an inner game guy. You know, this is what I tell people is that whatever mental baggage you have is going to hinder your game even more than the logistics of dealing with groups.
Yeah.
So let go of your outcome, let go of your baggage. No one gives a shit at the party of what mood you're in. If you're tired, oh, I'm sleepy, I'm tired. No one cares. No one cares. If your mother has died, no one cares. You have to bring your smile, your
That kind
celebrity
of
smile.
compartmentalization is very emotionally destructive and devastating. I can tell you from doing 30 years of this work, suppressing that and because you want to do well in another context is devastating.
Yeah, but you can't bring it to the club because you lose the set.
That's my point. Some things are more important than going to the club. Sometimes inner healing is far more important than getting laid.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, that's true.
Touche.
No, that's a good point.
Fair enough.
I have
Okay.
about 2 minutes.
I hate to do
I
both of you gentlemen, but I'm going to have to wrap it up. It is now past 5:30, so we've been back for a couple hours now.
And my trainer is coming to kick my ass. Look at these guns.
No, mine's little.
Jesus Christ, how could that be possible?
I have a rock star's body. It never slowed me down.
That's
my refrain.
I have an old Bush body. Again, it's hard to, I understand it could be very hard to believe what I'm saying and that it could possibly work. I get it. And I'm going to plug it one more time. Try it for free. If I didn't think your best, people say, where's your evidence? I like to say your own results are your best evidence. So go try it, get results and see for yourself. Eric, it's been an honor.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
And I do hope at some point we do get to work together. What that'll look like, I don't know, but it would be epic. I think everyone.
We both know Baxter, so let him be the mediator.
Give him a big pee-pee to pee-pee hug. I love that guy.
I'll talk with him. Just
talk with him. Thanks.
Alrighty, I'll just quickly wrap it up. I got a few quick things to run through. So what is it? Oh yeah, I was laughing because I was gonna say Ross's and this is a debate between an American Jew and a humble Canadian being moderated by a Canadian Jew. So that's what I was laughing for like 5 minutes.
I'm Israel Chai, baby. I'm Israel
but anyway. There's one, no more super chats, guys. There's one last question that came in last minute though. Question for both Ross and Mystery. Just quick answer to this so we can wrap it up. What did you think of the book, The Game, when you first read it? In the book, The Game, did Neil present a fair and accurate portrayal of who you
No.
What'd
were
you think,
back then?
Russ?
No.
What'd you think, Russ?
I'm a public figure. I put my head out in the chopping block. If he wants to chop off my head fairly or unfairly, that's his right, and I call for it. But he made fun of my students. He called my students greasy-haired fools, which number one isn't true, and number two, he had no right even to address them. That's a cheap shot to people who didn't invite it, and that's number one. Number two, he betrayed everyone by pretending to be everyone's friend, when in reality, he knew he was writing the book the whole time. So that's my comment. I gotta go too, because I'm fucking hungry as shit. And I've gone without peeing for 2 hours, which when you have a prostate the size of a watermelon, it's not easy.
Well, I have thoughts to share on the whole Neil Strauss thing, but we'll table it for another occasion then. Because we
Thank
gotta
you.
go. Okay.
Alrighty. Shout out to Mystery. You don't tend to do shout out to Mystery. You don't tend to do debates or things like this. So huge respect to you for stepping into this and for suggesting it in the first place. Ross has been debating since the late 1980s. So this is like, huh?
It was our idea
What'd you
together on our podcast. It was like, what's up with Ross? So we brought you lovingly into the conversation. As you are brought into every boot camp that I do, at some point, I will mention Neil. He will come up in the conversation. I will mention RJ, and I'll mention David D. Those are the top three guys that I will mention in my talks. So you're lovingly immortalized.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Good times.
But not ready to be mummified. Not yet.
Live long. Live long.
I gotta go. Mike, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Alrighty. Thanks.
Thanks, Ice.
Shout out to Ablaze, Mystery's wingman for thanks. Shout out to Ablaze, Mystery's wingman for helping set this up with us. Links are in the description to Ross and Mystery's stuff. So check out the description, click on that shit and see where it takes you. So big shout out to Ablaze. He was in the 4-hour interview a few weeks ago with Mystery and myself. So he helped set this up between all of us. And yeah, the funny thing, just a quick story about how this was set up. Mystery suggested it during the 4-hour interview, which was interesting. So that was a very good opportunity to jump on. So big shout out to Ablaze. And of course, Mystery, this isn't his normal kind of thing. He's not known for debating. If you look at Ross's history, he's been arguing with people for fucking decades. for many years, nearly 40 years. You could see from the late 1980s, he was on the Wally George show, and in 1992, he was on NBC debating an entire room of feminists. So that's probably his most viewed video. It's hilarious if you haven't seen it before. But I was scheduling this once we got the green light from Mystery for the time that works for him. I was fucking scheduling it on Google Calendar at the airport, carrying my suitcases and my daughter, and then on my phone, just Google Calendar, let's get the board the plane. So scheduled that in Halifax Stanfield Airport, Nova Scotia, east coast of Canada, representing. So that was a bit of a rush because that was a little bit of a long flight, but thanks for watching. Check out the links. If you have any questions for the future, because Mystery said he might be up for another kind of thing like this. So if this opportunity does hit again, let's try to make that happen. So in which case, leave your comments, leave your questions in the comments, and I would love to make use of that opportunity. I am simply extending whatever Russ was saying, opportunity, whatever. Yeah, so there we go. And my final message here is don't feed the trolls.